Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. Go ahead and put in the chat for me, I guess, your name and where you're coming from. Trinidad and Tobago. Well, thank you so much for being here, Claire. I appreciate it. If you're just joining us, please go ahead and put your name and where you're coming from or where you're signing in from. We'll get started in a few minutes. Make sure we have time for everyone to join us. I just want to be included in the chat. So I added my information. Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. While I have you, go ahead and add your name and where you're signing in from in the chat. And then we can kind of meet each other before we dive into a deeper discussion. If you'd like, I also have the presentation slides online and you can follow along with us. Hey, James, thanks for being here. I'm actually hoping to travel to Portland later on this afternoon, or not this afternoon, later on this year. Oh man, it's been a day already. Teddy, thanks for being here. GW. I love the DC area. I lived in Baltimore for a while. I worked at UMBC, so a little bit further away from DC, but kind of in the area. All right. Yeah, close enough, right? I'll give us a couple more minutes. Thank you all for being here. For those of you joining us now, I'm putting the presentation slides in the chat. Feel free to follow along with us if you'd like. Also, we'll be going into some breakout rooms later on to have a discussion. So make sure that you are willing and able to turn on your audio and maybe have a second screen available possibly. Truly, one person just needs to share their screen, and that's really what it is. But I think it enhances your experience if everyone has a second screen to look at the card decks. If you're joining us, please go ahead and add your name and where you're signing in from in the chat, and we will get to know each other. Awesome. All right. Well, are we ready to get started?
Yes, and reminding everybody we are recording, so, but that doesn't mean that you can't speak, so please speak on up. And thank you, Dr. Smith, for joining us today.
Of course, of course. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Dr. Colleen Smith, and I'm here to talk about undercover inclusion because I created this card deck based on my research, culturally sustaining instructional design. in a way to be more reflective about our course design and be almost like covert inclusion DEI people now that we have to be. There's a lot going on, obviously, in our government, and we have to find ways to include people and still be there for our historically underserved students without actually saying the words, apparently. And so I'm excited to get started because I have this card deck and I created it online so that everyone can kind of follow along. And I hope to be going into breakout session soon, like I said, for all of us to discuss something. But I'm interested to see what you all think about the card deck. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So again, I'm Colleen. I am an instructional designer for North Carolina Central University. It's an HBCU, or a historically Black college and university in Durham, North Carolina. I am also the CEO and owner of Inclusive Online Learning Solutions. So this is kind of like my side gig, my side project. Based on my research for my doctoral program a couple of years ago, I ended up creating a card deck, like a sorting card deck, to create a discussion between either departments, faculty, staff of instructional designers, or just a way to do some personal reflection based on how we're designing courses. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we have welcomes and introductions. It looks like we have just a few participants here. So I would love it if you could put in the chat why you're interested in this session in particular, why you decided to join us today. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to go ahead and put that in the chat. Just why'd you come today? That's all I want to know. I think the reason why I wanted to do this today is kind of pilot out some ideas that I've had. What I found in the research is that the faculty or designers by assignment, people who are just like told to create something because they're really good at the topic area, um, that it's so hard for people to know what is culturally inclusive or culturally sustaining. So the more we can start discussions that are judgment free in a way that might be gamified with like a card deck, where everyone's trying to navigate maybe a difficult conversation or an uncomfortable conversation and trying to make it a little bit more approachable and make academic research a little bit more approachable for people. Okay. So being an ID and getting asked about inclusiveness, thanks, Stephanie. Low stakes way to have conversations about it. Yes, Katie, I was just talking about that. Claire, yeah, looking for interesting and engaging ways to educate and collaborate. Yes, beautiful. Well, this card deck was created to be collaborative, and that's what the breakout rooms will be later on. We'll talk a little bit more about that, and we'll make sure. Oh, James, you're working on an equity grade scheme. That's cool. Okay, awesome. Well, let's get started then, for sure. All right, so this is the card deck. Basically, you can't read much of it, but why it matters, I think we're all here because we know that there's been DEI pushback and this growing resistance. We have people of public universities all the way from their students getting deported and not being able to say words for NSF or NIH grants like woman, which is ridiculous in my opinion. But being able to actually design something without saying, I'm being culturally responsive and culturally sustaining. We truly want to almost go at that with like a micro sense of saying, I'm being open without saying the words like I'm being open to everyone. We're not saying the words pronouns. We're not saying, you basically just while you talk, you say Colleen Smith, she, her, and then move on with the conversation. You're really not announcing the fact that pronouns are important. I know that in the welcome session earlier today, someone said, my topic is social justice, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to um, teach that topic, which I believe that would be very difficult. But looking for ways for implementation in these challenges and barriers that have been put in front of us, I think is truly what this card deck will help us kind of suss out with each other. Because I think the important thing is that what's happening is that our voices are trying to be silenced. And I think in a way to advocate for ourselves and for others whose voices are trying to be silenced, the best thing we can do is use our voices. So a discussion is very important. And it is in that point where this card deck comes into life for its advocacy to create spaces for people to have conversations about this in person or via online, right? Face to face. Maybe not written because all of that can come back, obviously. So we want to make sure that we're looking into culturally sustaining design, which is a little bit different, but I will definitely go through that with you all in the model. But if you are interested, I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat the article that was written by myself and my chair about culturally sustaining instructional design. Ooh, excuse me. So this is the model of the culturally sustaining instructional design. You can read a little bit more about it from that article, but basically it came from the research that I was doing, and it came from two different frameworks. It's a triangle, a 3D triangle, where the base is community. If you think about any type of culture, the community is the base. So when we're in a course, we want to feel like we're in a community, and that way we feel a sense of belonging, and then we are motivated to engage, we are excited, and we feel supported. So in each of these 5 pieces of this 3D triangle, I have created reflective questions or prompts for people to think about and ask about and discuss based on like the content or how students are demonstrating their learning, or what your pedagogical decisions are, and how do you show support for students. I think we have quite a few frameworks that talk about support, but it's really just like technical support. But in this conversation, and especially in ELK, what has been an ongoing conversation has been more about how do we support the whole student holistically, of making sure that um, do they have the technology? Are they able to access the technology and the course content from anywhere, a mobile device, a laptop, a desktop screen, at any time that they have the time to work on your content and your courses. So it's a little bit more in depth, but it will all become a little more I think clear as we go into the breakout rooms. All right, so now we're here, breakout rooms. We're going to have about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how great the conversations are going, about these card decks. And what I'll do is that what I'm asking you all to do is that I will put in the chat links for 5 different game boards. And those 5 different game boards are on community, support, content, pedagogy, or demonstrate. You all are welcome to join the breakout room for any of those, and also then open the game board for the corresponding breakout room that you enter. So I've put it in the chat, the game board. So go ahead and choose whichever one you'd like to be a part of. And then I will open up the breakout rooms. What I ask is that you all review the cards, have a group discussion about those cards. There's only about 5 or 6 cards per section. And then you sort them into categories of something that you already do. Please share with your group something you could be doing, and also something that's challenging to implement. And then what I'd like you to do is go ahead as a group, choose one card that you could do and choose one card that's challenging to do. And then we're going to share that back with the whole room. Because I believe that, again, the power is within our voices, and I want to make sure that we're all talking about the challenges that we are facing in day to day. So it's much easier if you think about your experiences in course design, how you've helped faculty, how you have created certain course design pieces, and we want to make sure that everyone whoop, excuse me, there's more people joining, so I gotta make sure to add that in the chat again. There you go. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and open the rooms. What I'd love for you all to do is choose a topic, community, content, demonstrate, pedagogy, or support, and then open the board game that, or the card deck that is in the chat that corresponds to the breakout room that you choose. All right. If you have questions about where to go for the breakout rooms, please let me know and we'll go from there. They should be open. I might have to check in with some of the breakout rooms because it looks like only
Sure.
one person's
I'm not
going.
sure what we're doing. I just joined.
Oh, hi. Okay, thank you so much for being here. We are joining breakout rooms to look at and discuss some playing cards that we have. So if you select community, content, demonstrate, pedagogy, or support, you can choose and click on in the chat one of the card decks, and then also join the breakout room that's assigned to that same topic area. And then we're going to just discuss some of the questions that are on the cards in the card deck. And then the
What's
rest of the
the
instructions are on the game board.
what's the community for? What's the difference?
So community is that's a great question. So community is the base of the culturally sustaining instructional design model. There are different prompts to help you work through how to create a community within a course. Content is all about how do you create culturally sustaining content and display it for your students or your learners. Demonstrate is how your learners are expected to demonstrate their learning within a course. And there are prompts again, thinking about how to make that more culturally sustaining. And pedagogy is about your pedagogical decisions and strategies that you use throughout teaching the course. And then support is how you support your learners. Again, all of the prompts that are within the playing cards have something to prompt you for a discussion as to how you might go about doing that exactly.
Got
And
it. Thank you.
then, yeah, of course.
Well, there's nobody in content. Are there people in demonstrate? Maybe I can join that one. But I'm not
It looks like,
actually an ID.
yeah, that's okay. There's one person in demonstrate. There's nobody in pedagogy so far, and nobody in community. So, if you all would like to go and take a gander of it by yourself, that's okay. But if you want to join a group, then to have the discussion, then that's fine too. It's really up to you all.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Of course. Thank you for joining. Hello, hello, Cynthia, Adele, Carolyn. If you're just joining us, we are getting into breakout rooms right now. If you have questions about the breakout rooms, please feel free to ask the questions, and I'm here. I can add the links one more time in the chat so that you all see the chat for the card deck
Yeah,
that you
I
all
pressed
will
the
be
link
discussing.
and the card thing popped up and I'm playing with the cards. It just never sent me anywhere.
Oh, okay. So in order to join the breakout room, I believe you can click the three little dots or the words that say more, and you should be able to see the breakout rooms.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead and join the corresponding breakout room for you. Right. All right. I am going to start popping in to some breakout rooms. Are you okay to let people know that we're in breakout rooms and how to do that?
Yes, I'll be glad to.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Have fun.
Thanks.
Adele, are you needing some assistance or are you just opting out not to do the breakout rooms? It's good either way. I'm just curious.
I was just gonna look at all of them first and
Okay.
then join. So I
Okay.
think I'm on the last one. I think I'm
Oh,
on.
perfect. Okay.
Are they in? They're in demonstrate, she said.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
content. There's one person in demonstrate. There's two people in support and four others in content, if that helps.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks.
No, thank you. Stephanie, are you stepping out of the rooms for just now? Or are you going to try to get into another one? I noticed you were in one just by yourself, the demonstrate one. We have several people in the support and several people in the content. If you wanted to pop into there, or if you just wanted to work on it by yourself, Stephanie, that's fine too.
Hi, Allison. How are you? We are actually in breakout rooms currently. So if you're wanting to, excuse me, it's been a long day. If you're wanting to engage in the breakout rooms, I'm happy to point you in the direction of those. Of course, Allison. Thank you for coming.
That was my colleague.
Oh, really?
Yes. I think she's
Oh,
bummed. She wanted to come to that. I know she did, but
that's okay. I mean, she's welcome to
yep.
join a room, most definitely. I have a 4-month-old upstairs screaming her head off right now.
Yikes.
It's just, that time of life.
It is. I remember those days.
Yeah, this is our second, so it's been fun.
Enjoy them while they're young. Mine are in their 30s, and I can't believe it. So
Yeah. Oh, man, that's fantastic. So I went into the breakout rooms just in case you are moderating others. I was asking them to share their screens, and
okay.
they apparently did not have access to do that unless I went in, or I'm assuming you or I went in to change the settings for sharing screens. So just FYI for future stuff. I did change the settings for them so they're able to share their screens
Okay.
now and work collaboratively. But just so you know that that's just one more thing that you
We'll
might need to
definitely
think
find out
about.
about that. Yeah, I don't see it on my list of being able to do. I don't know if I have to go like into the breakout rooms. I will find out. That's good to
Yeah, I basically went to when I went to share, I went to advanced settings. And
Okay.
it said who can share, and I put all participants, and it said who can start sharing when someone else is sharing, and I said all participants as well, because I believe everyone is collegial and
Right.
academic here. So I just gave everybody
Okay.
all the access. So if you have to use the same particular room for another room, it might still have that
Okay.
access. Possibly. I just wanted to bring that up just in case.
Yes. I will add that to our Discord notes so that we have something to. Oh, there's Brandon. Hello, Brandon.
Hello, I know I'm joining late, but figured I would pop in.
Okay. She's doing a great job so far. She's got everybody in breakout rooms, and yeah, so far so good.
Would you
Awesome.
like to join a breakout room?
I will stick around until because what we've got 15 minutes left. Are they almost done?
Yes, yes. I'm about to pull them out of their breakout rooms.
I will stick around here, and if you do another round, throw me in.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Brandon.
You said for your breakout rooms, what did you do again? You gave access for everybody to have what?
To share their screen.
Share their screen, right?
All right, so I'm going ahead and closing the rooms and hoping everyone will come back and have some great insights for us. Hello, hello, welcome back, everyone. We're still waiting on a few other people to join us back in the room. I think it's content. Content was having a great conversation.
That is always a bonus. And I do see
Mm.
that Brooke has joined us and she was not in the breakout room, so you may want to explain to her a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Brooke, how are you?
Hi, I apologize. I was in a meeting, so bouncing
No
between
problem.
things.
I understand. All right, so I'm gonna quickly share a little bit about what we were doing in the rooms, but we have a culturally sustaining instructional design card deck. If you would like to learn a little bit more about CSID, there is a if I can get back to the chat, there is a article that was written that explains the entire model. But in a nutshell, this is a model to prompt yourself or your colleagues on how to have a low stakes conversation, to figure out how to somehow under the line of cognition to be more culturally sustaining. And I know that that was a very odd way of putting it, but the card decks are put into different categories: community, content, demonstrate, pedagogy, and support. The same of that 3D triangle model that you just saw, and the card deck links I've put in the chat yet again for you. But I know that we had one content and one support where we had a good conversation going. And with those, I asked for them to go through the prompts of the card decks and have a discussion about it. And I know that content was having a great discussion. I know that support was having an awesome discussion as well. So I would love to hear from either content or support. It's to you, whoever would want to be the spokesperson, or if everyone would like to join in the conversation, that's okay too. But to have a conversation about the focus cards that they chose, the one I could easily implement this, or it's challenging to implement this. So I will go ahead and open the floor to see who would like to start the conversation first. Sure, Claire, go ahead. I think you were in our content group.
Yes, I was. So
Okay,
just to get us started so we don't waste time.
love it.
So our group, so for, I need to flip screen. So for I could easily implement, we looked at how might learners help generate content in the learning environment that feature their communities and culture. And for challenging to implement, we looked at how might you integrate multiple perspectives, culture, linguistic histories, communities, and global examples from diverse voices. So I'm going to start with the first, how might learners help to generate the content, and my colleagues will chime in accordingly. So my situation is different from everyone else's in that I come from Trinidad and Tobago, and as a result, we are not having DEI issues yet. But we do have an interesting environment in that we have somewhat of a dichotomy in terms of people of African descent and people of East Indian descent. So we have a very strong cultural heritage. And I'm an educator teaching educators. So I tend to use my students' personal examples to help them with the content. So I would ask them to bring their examples to class. So we'd use them kind of like case studies. And we'd look then at how the science fits into their own communities or their own cultural history, etc. And that seems to sometimes help them make it more personal, because I do emphasize that in my class all the time. It is about you not just trying to pass the exam, but you making it your own so that it kind of becomes part of your own fiber. And I'll stop here and let Kathy and the others chime in.
Beautiful. That's a great example, actually, but go ahead.
So then also in the same vein of the I could implement easily with learners generating their own content, I am in a liberal arts institution and I'm an instructional designer who helps instructors ensure that their classes are set up the best way that they can. And we see a lot of instructors having students create relevant materials. We're big into open education resources too. So sometimes they're co-authoring open education resources that are going to be used by future students, but students creating FAQs or course content with the direction of the instructor, and then those materials being used in future courses so they can bring a little piece of themselves into the content, and then other students benefit from that learning.
Fantastic. I liked your examples. And how about the challenging to implement?
I'll jump in on this one. This is Cynthia. And
Hi, Cynthia.
one of the things I've noted is I teach doctoral classes, and students are asked by the curriculum team to critically evaluate each other's work, right? Every discussion, every thought, whatever. And I have found that sometimes it's a nice tactic to ask them to offer an example that gives strength and provide evidence-based research to support it, and to start thinking about the discussion as this marketplace of ideas that's very expansive and embraces all types of ideas, not just aiming in the direction that the discussion is directed. That way, we don't miss any opportunities for exploring the future or for looking at a wider marketplace. So students are very responsive to that. And and another tactic, came to mind as I was listening to everyone is the introduction. I love those introductions where you ask everyone to introduce themselves by describing themselves in 4 words or 6 words, because it kind of breaks down barriers and it helps us to identify with each other. The power words that describe us, whether we're caring, whether we're inquisitive, whether we're dependable, you know. And I notice people tend to be more supportive when they start thinking of each other and what they have in common.
Beautiful. Thank you. I do believe that it is challenging to integrate multiple perspectives, cultures, and linguistic histories, especially if we're trying to be undercover inclusion experts, right? One of the best ways that I always kind of monitor myself when I'm creating courses for to teach or to help other faculty to design, it's really to take a look at what the main content is. We talked about open educational resources. And if faculty are co-authoring the books or the textbooks or the OERs that are available in the course, that's almost perpetuating the same main voice, right? So thinking about the diversity of the perspectives that were being used, making sure that we're kind of looking at who is the author of the OER, who are the voices that we're capturing in maybe media. Are we looking for people who have different cultures, different backgrounds, different perspectives? Are we approaching that and putting the same emphasis on that content for the students? So that is one of the questions that I try to self-monitor to figure out. And sometimes for faculty, it's just like, oh, this is the textbook I have to use. But what about the media and the content that we add into our courses in order to help support the learning for our students? There are ways to be able to gain those perspectives in different ways. So I think that was really great.
Another
Fantastic.
thing,
And yeah, go ahead.
another thing that came up in that challenging to implement, and I brought up, I do have a background in library science a little bit, is that one of the things we teach librarians is to look for the bias of a source. Is this source valid or not valid, and kind of be aware of what, so you can still use the source, be aware that it's only coming from this perspective or another perspective, and encourage students to maybe have 3 or 4 perspectives and read through those before making their mind up about a thing, or not making up their mind. Sometimes there's not a right answer. There's no one answer sometimes.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to make sure that we get to support. Are you able to give us a quick download of your discussions?
I think we can. Sama, would you like to go first, or shall I?
I think get started and we'll continue.
Okay, so just in quick, so we're coming from a little similar backgrounds, a little different. Sama is an instructor of instructional design, and I'm I'm instructional technology specialist, so I support faculty. So, but in supporting faculty, we support students. So just in brief, the easily implemented was something that we could both agree on, like, how might you communicate your willingness to support learners? I've been, and that's been part and parcel of what I do and what we both do, in either when I was working as an instructor or what Sama's doing right now. And also in the willingness to, and my role is to support faculty too, because we have to know kind of what is the comfort level with each faculty member I'm working with, what is their threshold of frustration with technology? Because just in brief, at the college I'm working at, there are instructors who never needed to even touch Zoom or PowerPoint or a PDF until everything flipped remote during the pandemic. And then that was a huge, that went on for about 2 years, all right, until we slowly came back to campus. We had a slightly different about challenging to implement. I just in brief, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague, just in brief, maintain the delicate balance between challenges and support. So for instructional support, that's something I struggle with. How much do I do myself? And how much do I expect of the faculty to do it themselves in creating the courses, designing things, building things out? Because of course I want to teach them. I don't want them to be dependent, but I also don't want them to flounder and get frustrated too. So that's something it's a balancing act for me. So I'll turn the mic over to my awesome colleague. And thank you for your
Thank you, James, for get us started. Yeah, in addition to what my colleagues, James has mentioned, we had a big discussion on this area for providing support to students as well as faculty from his point of view, and to what extent we feel this support is good enough, or to what extent we feel that this support is taken into consideration. Because sometimes when you give the students too much support, they might they may not look at it from, they just say, okay, we will do, and then later on, things will be too late because we're also obligated with deadlines and timelines that we need to be aware of. And the other things we mentioned in regards to challenges to implement, we talked about the support. So it's sometimes I feel it's very challenging. You have these links to the different resources. You have these links, different webinars, different things, but not all the students go there and attend. Not all the students really engage with these resources. So, and that's is also an issue of, of a challenge to us. And especially when, you want them, you want them to go there, but it's like really, again, a time concern issue for the students, a time concern issue for them to go there. So you keep like directing them back and forth. So I feel this is a challenge to implement.
Agreed. Well, thank you all so much for your conversations and discussions. I know that we're about ready out of time. One of the pieces that I did want to kind of discuss of the support pieces, that the challenge and support theory is almost the most difficult theory to implement because it is highly dependent on each person. I hope that in terms of the resources, like you were discussing, Samat, was it should be exactly placed in a way that you believe would be the most support. Therefore, let's say you're asking your students to join a student organization, go to an event that's something not like their own culture or their own perspective, so that they can learn something new about a different group of students, which is a normal kind of like social justice diversity type of assignment that people give. But also then listing the organizations that are available that students can be a part of, if that's a part of that assignment, right? So it should be directly related to the content that is also having. But again, this is just one scenario, and there's many different ways to do that. But with the challenge and support, it's so difficult because you could have maybe one comment from a student, or reading a paper from someone about their experience, or seeing a discussion post about something that, it kind of twinges in your brain where you're like, I think that student needs a little bit more support, and being able to reach out to that student. But like you said, it does take a little bit more time on the instructors basket and also on the learner's basket to actually go into that support piece. But I think what's important is knowing that the instructor cares and has that presence during that course. That is what makes then a student feel that sense of belonging, and then again increase that motivation to be engaged in the course, because it feels like they're supposed to be there and someone cares about them. But yes, I love this conversation. So we have about 5 minutes left. What questions do you all have for me before we end? I appreciate you all kind of being in this lightning round and jumping in, getting your feet cold, your feet wet with these cards. I just really appreciate your time. But I'm here for questions if anyone has any. Awesome. So, oh, yeah, James, go ahead.
Oh, hopefully this is relevant to our conversation, but quick question for those in attendance. How many of you folks who are in tenant, it's okay if I ask this, have actually an AI policy at your schools? I'm at a community college, a large one. And I noticed that many of my colleagues that I meet from other community colleges don't have an AI policy, but many universities do. So I'm curious if you do indeed have, and if you actually find that is If you don't have one, how do you work? How do you work with that? And if you do, has it been has it been good for you? You know, because right now we don't have one, you know, and may never have one, quite frankly.
We don't have a policy. We have a group working on a policy. We do have boilerplate language they have created to put into any of the syllabi that people use. Then trying to mandate that that language goes into, but the policy is currently in progress.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Same. At North Carolina Central University, we have an AI group that is discovering this. So in the meantime, instructional designers and Office of e-learning, we are encouraging faculty to create their own policy and posting it on their course. Obviously, we have examples of that and scripts that they can lift and copy and paste of like low level, mid level to high level use of AI, depending on what they feel most comfortable with.
Students who use AI for classroom activities have to cite sources that verify the information. And so they can cite the large language model they might have used, as well as the informed source that studied it and supported that with evidence.
Fantastic. Claire, I saw that you had your hand up earlier. Was that an answer to James' question or another question?
Yes, I was just saying, yes, me. We kind of did as well. But I wrote my comments in the chat.
Beautiful, beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you all so very much. I'm going to put my information in the chat. I would be very happy to hear from you all. If you enjoyed the conversation, I have actual physical card decks for people to buy if anyone would like to do that. It's really up to you. This was only for me to get practice trying to facilitate a conversation, seeing what kind of discussions could take place with these card decks. So thank you all so much for being a part of this. And I will stick around if anyone else would like to talk a little bit more.
Thank you for taking your time today. We really appreciate you being a presenter.
Thank you.
And thanks to everyone for participating.
Thank you all. Have an excellent day.
You too, James. Good luck on your car.
Thank you so much.
Great.